I'm Joshua and I'm interviewing my granddad. When were you born?
I was born on the 12th of August 1936.
Okay. How old are you?
80.
How old were you when I were born?
I don't know how old was it? I can't remember. When were you born? What year?
2004.
Before? So I was 1936, I was at 64, 68.
Where were you born?
In Gillingham in Kent.
That's where I was born. Do you have any brothers and sisters? What are their names and where were they born?
One sister, Valerie, she was born in Gillingham in 1946.
Okay. Do you have anything interesting to tell me about your childhood?
Oh, that's a big question. When I was about 8 or 9, my father bought me a huge Meccano set. Although it was second hand, he painted all the parts and laid it all out on the dining room table. It was massive. And also I had a little cinema projector also on that table. And then I remember the war. I remember seeing the Battle of Britain with the Spitfires overhead. I remember seeing the Doodlebug, that's the V2 and V1 rockets which were launched from Berlin. I saw one with the flame cut out and it crashed into Chatham Dockyard. That's quite a memory. All the neighbours were in the garden and they all disappeared and left me there. And I didn't know why until I saw this Doodlebug overhead with its flame at the back, because it was a jet, and it suddenly stopped. Engine cut out and it dive bombed straight to the ground. Fortunately it was quite a distance away from where we were, just caught in the bottom end of our road, just on the edge of the dockyard. What else do I remember? I remember school, all boys school, very interesting. We just had a concrete playground, but I did enjoy it. I spent most of my time playing football, and when I left school, I don't know how old you want me to go up to, but when I was 15, I had a trial for Upchurch football team, and I got picked to play for them. So that was really a highlight. To see my name on the church notice board in the village football team was really an achievement, I thought. So I played there until 1957, when it brings me up to the age of 21, but I did serve an apprenticeship from 15, electrical fitter at the electrical power repairs. The V1 armatures and stators and fuel coils for motors and generators, and I did 6-year apprenticeship, and that brings me up to 1957 when I got called up for national service. National service, I got into REME, Royal Electrical Mechanical Engineers. I did my training 6 weeks down at Blandford in Dorset. And then from there I went to Barton Stacey, which is near Andover, and did driver training with a 5-ton Bedford lorry, for which I passed my test. From there I went to Warminster in Wiltshire and did map reading, and I had an army driving test and quite a bit more tuition on driving. Down in Warminster. From there, I got sent to Cyprus, Limassol. I was there for 18 months, which was a nice part of Cyprus, right on the coast. And I I did all my active service there. I got an active service medal for serving out there because there was a lot of trouble on there at the time. A lot of fighting between the Turks and the Greeks. So I left there in 1959. Didn't want to go back to where I served my apprenticeship, as it was a very small firm, which was a bit insecure. So I went into Chatham Dockyard as an electrical fitter. I went there as an electrical fitter in 1959. I had day release for college, and I went for many, many years day release and night school, and got various qualifications such as ONC, HNC. And that got me promotion to an estimator. So I was in the estimating office, working out times for the fitters to do work. If they did it quicker than the time I gave them, then they got extra pay for doing that, like a bonus system. Then I got further promotion as a control engineer. And I was in charge of the power station, which supplied all the power to Chatham Dockyard. And that was just quite a responsible job. I was there 7 years, and they sent me on a course at Royal Naval College, Greenwich, for 9 weeks on nuclear physics. I passed that course, and they sent me into the nuclear department, and I refuelled nuclear submarines from 1980-ish, about 1980 to 1983, right up until when the dockyard closed. So we had to move. I didn't want to go to Rosyth or Devonport. Saw a job advertised at Farnborough, the Royal Aircraft Establishment, had an interview and got the job. I was working on the machinery that looked after the Concorde, the big plane, the Concorde. It's not flying today, but in those days it was quite popular. Used to go to America and back in quite quick time. So I worked on that for quite a while until they offered me a promotion job at the Institute of Aviation Medicine, which is still in Farnborough, and I worked the centrifuge, and I trained or helped train pilots to withstand the G-forces of the very fast jets like the Eurofighter. And I was there for, well, best part of 20 years doing that. I retired, but they couldn't find a replacement after 12 months, called me back, and I worked then for another 11 years until 1982, I think it was. But I was 72 that time when I retired. I met your grandma at the Camden Road Youth Club, 1956. And I thought, oh, she looks all right. So I went out with her. I used to walk her home because she lived at the other end of Gillingham, right up the top end. So I used to walk her home, and it really grew from there in a way. We went out together for a long while, got engaged in 1957. I was doing national service. It was when I was home on leave. And then as soon as I got out of the army in 59, we married in 18th of March 1961. And we've been together ever since.
When was your first child born?
It was the 23rd of July 1962. It was quite early in the morning, probably about 5:30-ish. I don't know if I should say this, but in those days, when the child was born at home, I had to dispose of the afterbirth, which I did in an incinerator at the top of the garden, about 6:30, and there's a lovely sunny day. I remember the bus going up Walderslade Hill, taking the workers to Chatham Dockyard.
Do you have any other children?
Yes, we have Stephen and Peter.
When were they born?
Stephen was born in May 1964, 27th I think, and Peter was born 27th of August 1968.
And that's it for tonight. Goodbye. Did you do any pranks when you were younger?
I remember one. There was a drain pipe in the alleyway that connects Corporation Road or Baden Road, one of those roads, with Milner Road. And I stood on my pal's shoulder, lit a couple of bangers and fitted them and let them drop them inside this drain pipe. And we made a quick run for it. And we was right through into Corporation Road and we heard the explosion. And when we came back, there was a hole at the bottom of the drain pipe. And that must have been, I would say, 1956, 55. No, before then, wouldn't it? So is it 46? Yeah, just after the war, about 1946 or 7. And that damaged drain pipe is still the same today. 2016, still the same today. Never been repaired.
Did you do any more pranks?
Yes. I remember I was gardening and I had this stone and I thought, what's the matter with life stone? I don't want that. And I went to throw it on the pile on the other side of the garden. And I threw it too high. It went skimmed right over the fence and crashed right through next door neighbour's window. It caused absolute mayhem.
Did you get into trouble?
No, not really. No, Father was quite good with me, really. He knew I was doing the good, really. I was doing the garden for him. So he didn't seem to mind too much. But he had to put a new pane of glass in. I remember him doing that. There was the ladies that lived there were two old spinsters. They never married. They were getting on a bit and they were a bit odd. And Father wouldn't go in to do it. He did all the fixing of the window from the outside.
Any mishaps happen when you were working?
Yeah, I remember once, when I was doing my apprenticeship, we used to clean what we call commutator segments. That's on the end of an armature, on an electric motor. And we used to put them in this big container of sulphuric acid to clean all the muck off and everything. And we used to hang them on a wire so that we could fish them out when they, after about 10 minutes or so. And I forgot, because the manager there really drove us hard to work, and he wouldn't let us wait. We had to find another job, even for 10 minutes. And I forgot. And after about 2 hours, I thought, all my parts of that commutator bits. So I pulled the wire out. Of course, the wire was rotted away, and all the bits were in the bottom of this acid tank. So I just wasn't sure what to do, and I had a best pal there, and I said to him, Barry, all my bits are in the bottom of that, in that acid. Oh, goodness me, he said, you're going to be in for the high jump over that. Hang on. And he rolled his sleeve up and put his arm and hand in this acid and put all these bits out for me, and his hand and arm turned yellow. But he did recover.
Any more?
Yes. The manager lived next door to the workshop when I was an apprentice. And he used to keep coming round to make sure we were working. He was quite a slave driver. And one day he said, "Oh, this big motor, it's 3,000 volt," he said, "but it should work on 400 volts." He said, "It may be a bit of a job to start, but it will eventually go to make sure it runs okay." So I said, "All right then." So about 2, 3 o'clock in the morning, we were ready to run this motor, and we had a circuit breaker with an arm which we had to close to make the contacts, and it kept cutting out. And I kept doing it, and there were sparks coming out of this starter and flames shooting out of it. And I kept going, pushing this arm until it was gradually getting up to speed, and all of a sudden all the lights went out. So, oh dear, what have I done now? And I looked along and quickly took a trip up to Gillingham High Street, and all the lights had gone out. All along Strover Street, Mill Road, everywhere. I put the electricity board's lights out. That caused a bit of bother, but I didn't hear much about it. So I must have got over, they must have smoothed it over somehow with the manager. But I was surprised I didn't get suspended for that.
Get up to mischief when you were a young boy?
Well, I was quite a good boy, really. But I remember I liked to go to bed a bit late. And they used to send me to bed, say, at 8 o'clock. So I thought when it was getting off weight, I'd put the clock back an hour. I never realised I had an extra hour up playing with my toys. I can't remember what happened when they found out, but I didn't get into any real bother at all over it. It's quite amazing. But I got away with it.
What cars did you have?
Well, the first wasn't a car, it was a motorbike. It was about 1951. I was 15, and Father took me up to Waldron's, which was a sort of a second-hand dealing place in the town, and we saw an Austin 7 there, called an Austin 7 Nippy. Father said, "Oh, that would be better, but we haven't got enough money for that. We need another £5. So we, on our bikes, we cycled quickly back home, came back, and in that time it had been sold. So we had a motorbike there called the Coventry Eagle. It had a Jap engine, sloping cylinder, 2 upswept exhaust pipes, quite nice looking, hand change, 1937 model. So Father said, perhaps we'll go for that then. So they wanted about £15 for it. Father, being the way he was, said, bargained with them, and I think we got it for £12. And then we had to push it, because it wasn't taxed or insured or anything. We pushed it down Mill Road, down towards Pier Road, and Father said, "Oh, I'm not pushing it any further." And he started it up. He said, "Jump on the back," and we drove it home. The rear sprocket was worn so much that the chain jumped over the sprocket. But we managed to get home, and Father said, "Right, you've got to take every nut and bolt off of that bike, and so that you'll know how it works." And I took a whole year. I couldn't ride it anyway until I was 16. So we had it re-sleeved up at Kent Rebores in Canterbury Street. New big ends, little end, new piston rings, everything. It was just like new when I'd finished it. And then Father let me out on it. But after a while, with hand change, it was quite old. One day we went to get a part for it from Myers over in Chatham, and there was a Triumph motorbike, 1947 350, but it was in pieces, or part of it was in pieces. Father, being the way he was, said we could repair that and put it back together again. So he did a bit of bargaining, got it for about £25 I think, and we managed to get it in a trailered it home and refitted it all, sold the Coventry Eagle, and I used this Triumph. Of course, it seemed like a Rolls Royce compared with the Coventry Eagle. and had foot change and everything, really nice. Bit difficult to handle, had a long wheelbase. But I took my driving test in Maidstone on it and passed first time. And after a while, we found that there was a Royal Enfield which was a bit more modern. So we sold the Triumph, bought the Royal Enfield 350 overhead valve. I met my wife Janet, and we used to go out on it all over the place, all around the coast and everywhere, which was quite a nice bike. It was quite reliable, and I had that all the way up until my national service. Then I sold it because I got sent away, and then when I came out of the army, 1959, I was looking there for something else, and we found this BSA. It was a Star Twin, 500 overhead valve, twin carburetors on it, really nice bike, fully sprung front and back, and we had that for quite a while. And then we got married, and I put a sidecar on it, which was not quite the same when Davy came along. So Father said, if we got to Myers we had to get a part for this Triumph. He had a van there, which was his own van, and he said, I'm going to get rid of that van and get something else. So Father said, we'll have it, we'll buy it. £80, I think it was, if I remember rightly. So we had a standard 10 van and sold the Triumph, the Royal Enfield rather, and used the van for quite a while until I was out going on a course from the technical college. We had to go to Sittingbourne for the paper mills, and on the way down I saw this car in the forecourt, and my pal was with me. I didn't say anything to him because he was a bit like me, he was looking for something else. So I looked at this car, it looked nice from the cars we just went past. So early next morning, which was Saturday, I got up, I went over there, saw this car, £100, of Vauxhall Wyvern, white, looked very nice. So I bought it. When I went back to college, my pal said, I want to look at that car, he said, and it had already gone. I had to tell him that it was me that had bought it, and we had that for quite a long time, had 4 or 5 years I think, until we bought another vehicle. I think it was a Triumph Herald, which was quite nice, and then we bought the later Triumph, didn't we? What was that called? The later Triumph. I forget what it was called, but it was a larger engine. And Vitesse, I think it was called. Triumph Vitesse. And then after that, we bought a Daimler XJ6, 1971, which is very nice, but it was very thirsty on petrol. Then what did we get after that? I think we had 2 of those. We bought a Bedford estate, which had about 11 people. Passengers it would hold. I had that for quite a while, and then we bought a Mini Traveller, wooden sides to it, which was quite nice. But the big ends were going, so we had to have those done. We went all the way to Wales and back with the big ends gone, with no oil pressure, and the oil light was on nearly all the time. But it just shows you how strong they made them, these little Minis in those days, to withstand all that, 300 miles each way. Then what did we have after that? Another Mini, I think, an ordinary Mini car. And your grandma passed her test in the Mini. That would have been, Nan was 50, 39, that would be 1989. You were 50. She passed her test. She said she wanted to do 3 things by the time she was 50. Pass her test, learn to swim, and learn karate. She did 2, didn't you? Did the swim, learned to swim. But unfortunately, she didn't learn karate.
Too late.
Right.
Where did you live when you got married?
We were looking for houses. We got married in 1961, in March, and we started looking around October time before, the year before, 1960. And we found a house, semi-detached, in Dargats Road, number 20 it was called then. And they wanted £2,200 for it. And I offered £2,000, but the owner would not budge. So I said, how about 2,100 then? And he would not budge at all. No, he said, I want my 2,200. I offered him another £50, and in the end he took it. So it was £2,050 for this house in Dargats Road. Had a huge garden, about, I think overall it was 200 feet. And it was all lawn, was completely overgrown. They had tenants in there who, of course, didn't really look after the place at all. So it needed completely redecorating. The back door wouldn't open because the cistern leaked above it and the wood all swelled out because it got so wet with the dripping of this cistern. So I had a lot of work on to sort it all out. And I think I got the flu, I think, through overdoing things, doing the garden, getting rid of all this grass. I cut it all the way back and dug the whole garden up, and I had a mound at the top of the garden, which is about 5 foot high, and I had to get rid of this earth. And next door on one side was just a field. So I thought, I know what I'll do, I'll get rid of all this stuff over the field, because bulldozers were moving in to build the Birchfield estate. Right, so next door was a field, and I had all this mound of earth to move, tons of it. So I got the spade and I chucked it all over the field as the bulldozers were in to rebuild anyway. And they just swooped that up in a couple of goes, I think, although it took me all day. And I think it took its toll because I ended up with flu or something after that for a week or two, didn't I? I was off work. Anyway, I recovered and sorted out the garden, bought over 1,000 turfs to re-turf the lawn. But it did look nice when it was done. And then I redecorated all the inside. I put radiators everywhere, in every room. There were open radiators, probably wouldn't be allowed today because you could push your fingers through at the elements. Then after a while, my pal worked for an electrical company in the store, Ronnie Smith. So he said, we've got block storage you could have. We've got them here in kit form. They're quite a lot cheaper than what you would normally pay for them. So I bought quite a number. We had them in every room, and I rebuilt them. Very, very heavy. They weighed about 200 weight, I think. So once you had to build them where you were going to put them, because you could hardly move them. And then I had to wire in a complete new circuit, because it was off-peak. They came on during the night. So you had heat during the daytime when the power went off. So there's quite a lot of work to be done there. But we liked that little house. It was lovely. I suppose being your first house, you always, have fond memories of it. But we moved. We had the 3 boys, and we only had 3 bedrooms. So we moved up the road to number 47, was it? No, number 40. 40 Dargats Road. Friends we knew quite well had it. We used to go to parties there. And it was a lovely house, semi-detached, but very nice. Beautifully set out. Lovely big rooms. Really nice. So we stayed there. But unfortunately, the dockyard closed. So from 79 to 83, we was only there 3 years.
And that's it for tonight. Goodbye.